I'm sorry to break it to y'all, but the 40-hour work week is done because you can't survive just working on 40 hours. Like how I used to tell y'all in my previous videos, everybody that's making 40,000, 50,000 a year, that's without overtime. The average person gotta work overtime just to survive because the cost of living is tripled now. And I used to tell y'all that, but people used to look at me like I was crazy, didn't know what I was talking about. Y'all starting to feel it now because in reality, it's like you can't survive. Some people dream to make $20 an hour. Then as soon as they start making $20 an hour, $25 an hour, it's not enough. If it's not enough, how you gonna survive? You see people just living in tents and anything like that just to survive. So in reality, it's like, what can you do? So if you really can't do anything, how you gonna survive? How you really gonna survive in this life? How you gonna survive? That's all I be trying to say. Because let me tell y'all, like I always tell y'all, when you working these 9 to 5s, they not loyal to you. They don't care about you. And that's the first thing they cut. It's your overtime. And then let me know if I'm lying or if I got a point. Let me know. You done witness somebody work overtime. They be talking about how much money they making doing overtime, working 40 plus hours. And then as soon as they cut their overtime, their whole attitude changed. They start selling their house, their cars, because they was doing everything based off overtime. So in reality, you can't base your life based off overtime. But that's what the average American does. Because they be so happy to work all them hours and be like, well, I made 150,000 a year. I made 100,000. And I always tell them, how many hours did you work? Well, I worked 14 here, 15 there. That's too many hours. You getting cheated, bro. Or sis. And I keep telling y'all that. That's what my channel is about. Because I want y'all to be prepared. Because I wasn't prepared. So in reality, it's like, I'm just trying to give y'all some real game. And then I'll be seeing people comment on my channel, be saying like, I'm just telling people to be bums. I'm not telling y'all to be bums. I'm telling y'all to be prepared. I say this all the time. This is for my entrepreneurs. If you happy working your job, this don't apply to you. But they always come on here and comment because they know I got a point. They know I'm getting to them. It's breaking their spirit somehow. They know it's touching their spirit, and they like, they gotta say something because they know I'm right, because they experiencing what I'm telling them. You ain't even gotta determine whether I'm telling you the real or not. You can experience it yourself. So once you experience it yourself and you look at your life, 5 years that went by, 10 years that went by, and you doing the same thing. Because in reality, you're not changing your mindset because you don't get it. You're not ready to get it. You know why? Because you always listen to what people told you. And that's what I be telling y'all. Stop listening to what people tell y'all that's not trying to elevate or do something different like you. You got to purposely be in an uncomfortable zone just to get comfortable. So you got to start being uncomfortable on purpose. And once you start doing stuff like that, you change your mindset. That's what I used to do. When I used to be like, I don't feel like walking today, I don't feel like running today, I'll start changing my mindset. Like, no, let me just get out here and run. And then once you start changing your mindset, putting yourself in your uncomfortable zone, you got to get out your comfort zone. And that's where we go wrong at, because they tell us what we want to hear. And then we fall into the trap because we've been bamboozled. We've been used. So in reality, now you starting to feel it. So that's why you mad, because you're doing the same thing over and over. Like I was saying previously in this video, 40-hour work week ain't gonna cut it. That's why they always say you need 2 incomes to survive. And you shouldn't need 2 incomes to survive or work overtime. Because in reality, if you gotta work overtime just to pay your bills, you know what they're gonna tell you? You're living above your means. And half y'all that's working overtime, y'all still can't survive. Because a lot of people do not make 100 grand living in America. And if you do, I bet you, if you do, majority of them got to work overtime just to see that. Tell me if I'm lying or not. All I want to know. Tell me if I'm lying. That's all I got to say, because a lot of people is making 40, 50,000 a year. And then after taxes, they're not going to see the 40, 50,000. And then you still got bills. Now your bills are tripled because we live in an inflation. In a 40-hour work week, you can't survive. You barely can survive when you work overtime. And it's crazy because we weren't prepared for this, because we always waiting to cross that bridge until we get there. Stop doing that. Stop waiting to cross that bridge until you get there. I'm tired of hearing that. That's why we ain't never prepared for nothing, because look at the advice that they give us. It's to dumb us down, to keep us trapped, working in that workforce, to keep us trapped, making the same thing every year, because we don't never spend no time to ourselves, because we always at work. And then we work 8 hours a day. Imagine you working 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, and the money still ain't adding up. And that's the average American, because everything is triple. Let me know if I ain't got a point or not. You working all those hours and it's not adding up. And you upset because look how your life is going, because life is lifing. And you really can't afford it because you living from paycheck to paycheck. And you in all this debt. Because you know why? Because you was relying on this one income that they lied to you about. You really can't get ahead unless you work overtime. Then you barely can survive working overtime. Then when they cut your hours, you tripping now, because it wasn't that much money to begin with. And that's all I be wanting to tell y'all. Y'all got to open up y'all minds. It may take y'all some time to work on yourself, but stop being lazy. Stop being, man, I don't want to do that. When you say, man, you don't want to do that, or I don't want to do that, just start being like, nah, matter of fact, even though I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it anyway, because I'm going to get out my comfort zone. And watch what I tell you. Once you start figuring out how to make revenue other than waiting on a job and working 40 hours a week, you're going to start feeling good about yourself. No matter what you do, you just got to do your research and put your time in. That's all I be telling y'all, because 40 hours a week is not going to cut it. And then in reality, you got to show up the 40 hours a week just to make the little small check that you getting. So imagine what people go through just to get to where they at. Because a lot of people always say, well, if you lose your job, how you going to survive? How was you surviving when you had no job anyway? So stop doubting yourself. All I keep telling y'all, stop doubting yourself. You always putting your job there for a crutch to survive. And we always got to wait to cross that bridge when we get there, because that's the bull crap information we was told. So you could be working 10, 15 years, do everything right, and the job still lets you go. So now you in your feelings because you got to go find another job and you back at square one. That's all I be saying. Because you was lied to and you believed it. And you feel bad because you've been lied to this whole time, and you wasted a lot of time working your 40-hour work week because you never got it until now. And it's sad because some people don't get it until they get 56, 55. I'm telling y'all this now because I'm just starting to get it, because I look at life different now. I don't trip like how I used to trip, because if I trip and mope over things, I'm not going to accomplish nothing. So I don't trip about none of that no more. All the things I used to trip about, well, what if they're going to fire you? If they're going to fire you, let them fire you. But start preparing so you can just walk out on your terms, because they will walk you out. And it's nothing personal. It's just business. That's what I keep telling y'all. But let's keep it real. The majority of the average American, we don't want to work no 40 hours a week to begin with. That's why everybody's so miserable. Let's keep it real. Because y'all don't want to get up and do the same thing every day and barely make money to survive. But when I tell y'all to do the same thing for y'all every day, put 6 hours in, y'all look at it like y'all wasting y'all time. It's not adding up. Let's do some similarities. Let's compare this. You work 8 hours a day. You work 40 hours a week. You may be making 15 an hour, 20 an hour, 30 an hour. You may have to wait 2 weeks to get paid. Some people get paid every week. You may have to wait 2 weeks. And then after you get your check, you probably broke in 2-3 days because you've been paying bills. So now you feel like you can't do nothing that you really want with your money because you got to pay bills. And you working 40 hours a week. Now, you're relying on that job to give you overtime. So now you tripping about your overtime. And you really can't control the job. A job is going to tell you what they want you to do because you work for them. And it's nothing personal because you got to get out your feelings. Because you're relying on them too much. You're too dependent on them. So once you start learning to be more dependent on yourself, you're going to feel like, I don't need this job. I found out how to make a way on my own. And that's what most of us don't do because we stuck. So what I be trying to tell y'all is that it's deeper than what you think because we weren't prepared for this. And it's just getting worse. But we don't know where to go because we was lied to and we keep believing the lies. Tell me if I'm lying or not. And you know I'm not lying because you can look at your life. So if it's hitting a nerve and you can feel it, what I'm telling you, you can feel what I'm telling you because you're going through what I'm saying because I went through it. Working 40 hours a week, you're not going to get nothing done. And in reality, to be honest, you just got to make a sacrifice. Because even if you're working 40 hours a week, I would say if I had a chance to pick my shift, if I wanted to do overtime or 40 hours a week, let me keep it real with y'all. If I had my choice, I would do the 40 hours a week. Because even though you're going to make a couple dollars with overtime, but you ain't going to have no time to do nothing. You barely got time for 40 hours a week. And time is the most important currency that you can't get back. So if you're working 40 hours a week, you can figure out how to work on yourself and build yourself. That's why when people be like, well, if you lose your job, say if you wanted to become like an entrepreneur, if you was a content creator or whatever you want to do with your life, and people will be like, well, that ain't no job. How you going to make money for that? Okay, you would put in overtime at your job, but you want to put in overtime to do whatever else you want to do. So if you know that's how you generate revenue, you need to go hard at what you need to generate revenue to do. That'll be your job. You waking up, putting in overtime. These people like Kyle Sinet and all them, they showing you the blueprint. When you see them, what you see them doing? They're in the house every day because that's their job. It's not a traditional 9 to 5. We got to stop getting things wrong. Just because it's not a traditional 9 to 5, that don't mean it's not a job. If you generating revenue, it's a job. People say, oh, that's not a real job. Why? Because you ain't working 40 hours a week, 9 to 5. Then the job get to bobart what you want to do. Then they cut your overtime, you tripping because there wasn't enough money to begin with. That's all I'm saying. And let me know how y'all feel about that. And that's my take on the situation. And I'm going to see y'all again. Peace.